Hello, everyone. It's Dr. C. I just wanted to stop by today and talk with you for just a few minutes about prepping, planning, and presentation. Because those three things, those three components are very important in our instruction with VIPKid and with our students. So I've been with VIPKid almost 2 years. I'm about ready to sign my fourth contract. So my planning and my prepping when I first began is much different from the planning and the prepping that I do now. So I thought it might be beneficial for some of you that are newer and maybe even some of you that have been around a while to see how I prepped and planned at the very beginning. Not knowing anything about any of the lessons other than what I had gone through with my interview process, I was a little panicked in the beginning about what the lesson would be and how I would conduct that lesson. So as I began thinking about how can I plan, how can I be sure that what I'm doing beforehand is going to be beneficial when I get in the classroom with that student. So what I did was I found or I bought these file boxes and some color-coded index cards, and I divided them into level 1, level 2, and level 3, and supplementals, because those are the four levels or four things that I actually taught in the beginning. I hardly ever get level 1s anymore and only a few level 2s. My students now are primarily level 3 and 4, and I recently certified for 5, but I haven't had a student in that level yet. So what I did was, as I had a class scheduled, I'd look at my schedule and let's see that I say that I had a student who was ready for MC level 1, unit 4, learning cycle 2, lesson 5. I would pull that up and I would make an index card. I'd even write down the objective for the lesson. And then on the back, I would put the vocabulary words for that lesson. And I would do the same thing for every class that I had scheduled at that particular day or night at that time. And I would keep those separate and I would review them at the time I'm planning and prepping, and then I would review them again right before the class began. This helped me tremendously to learn about the lessons and to know those vocabulary words. There were a lot of times in the very beginning that I would get through all the slides and still have 5 minutes left. And you think, what? What am I going to do? I would pull out, first I would look at the objective and make sure that we covered the objective. And if not, we'd go back to a slide and make sure we covered that. And then I would pull those vocabulary words. And with the student on that blank screen, I would do several things. I would either, if they were a capable student, we would write sentences with these vocabulary words, or we would do missing letters, sort of like a hangman game without the hanging. And we would, I would have them spell the words, read the words and spell them. And I had several parents who commented in the very beginning how much they appreciated me doing that. So it sort of diverted from the fact that I had finished the lesson early. Now I've learned more about extending during a class than ending up with that time at the end, but it still happens. I taught a student this morning, it was a unit assessment, and those are notorious for finishing early. So I was able to use some of those strategies that I used in the very beginning. I would go back to words, have them write sentences, or we would come up with a sentence together. And this morning, she was very capable, and so she made those sentences and did very well with them. Sometimes, as I said, We played the missing letter game. So this was very valuable to me in the beginning because it gave me some security. I was nervous about the class and how it was going to go and making sure that I covered everything. So this gave me the security that I needed. Probably about halfway through, maybe about a year ago, I sort of let go of those, mainly because I had taught every level 3 unit and every level 2 unit. I had taught those. Level 1, I taught quite a few, but not all of those level 1 units. So when those come up now, I make sure that I go back, and in the portal, or in my schedule, I'll click on materials and I'll go through that. There's also something else that gave me some security and gives me security now, and that is I will pull up the information about the student. I know there's a lot of controversy about teacher-to-teacher feedback. I read it, and I try not to make any kind of judgment about the student, but it just gives me a little bit of background information that I can use. The most valuable thing that I see now is when they have that little video clip, and you can pull up the actual student in class with another teacher or maybe even yourself. And that's very valuable. So in my progression of moving away from all of this documentation and information, I also would take a calendar. And remember, this is a business. And so I would decide I want to teach 55 classes this month. And that means I've got to do this many on this week, this many another week, and I would add it up and make sure that I'm reaching my goal, or maybe even a little over my goal. What I would do is day by day, I would list how many classes I'm going to have. And then I'd go back and I would say, I wanted to teach 6, but I only taught 4. I had 6 slots open, but only ended up with 4 students. By doing that, at the end of the week, I knew I'm 3 away from my goal for this week, or I'm 4 away, or I'm 5 away. So that let me know next week I've got to double up. I've got to increase the number of classes that I'm teaching if I want to get to my monthly goal. So this really helped me to get that into my head of this is how many this is what I want. This is how many I've got to teach. And if I don't make that goal, then I've got to add it to the next week. So that's been helpful. After I stopped using the cards, I came up with a sheet of paper. Now, I don't have a copy of the one that I used previous to this version, but I used a third of a sheet of paper. And on that third of sheet of paper, 1/3 was for a student, one student. And it gave me room to write down their lesson, write down any notes during the class that I needed to take, and list the reward. What reward did I give them? And I used that for a long time. And then I thought, I'm using a lot of paper, and I could condense that as I've become more confident or more comfortable with the classroom instruction. So now I have the classes for 2 days listed on one sheet of paper. And I have room for the child's name, the date, and the lesson. I also put, if it's an assessment, I put that down because I can see that word assessment, and sometimes I forget that a 12 or a 6 is an assessment. If it's a new student, I put new on there. That helps me remember right before class, I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at that teacher-to-teacher feedback. Hopefully there's a video clip that I can watch. And then I left room for notes during the class. If the child needs help with a certain vocabulary word, they're mispronouncing a particular sound. I did a video earlier on some of those synthetic phonics sounds that some of our students are still missing. So I can write that down, and I know that's something I need to address in feedback. And my favorite way to address it in feedback is to say, Johnny is struggling with this sound. We'll continue to work on that sound in our lessons together. That gives the parent the expectation that you're going to book with them again. And then I put down the reward. Now, I'm a little different from a lot of people. I don't gear my reward toward individual students. I use the same reward for every class on that first day. And I may have to adapt it. If there happens to be a level 1, I might not be able to use my reward. And I'll tell you in just a minute what I do with those level 1s. But my level 2s, I may change it up a little bit. I may have them picking something if it's a lower level student. If it's a higher level student, I may just give them something and say, hey, you got that. You get this today. So what I do with those younger students when I don't think they can do the particular reward, I may just give them a star in my ManyCam. It doesn't seem to be showing, but that's okay. I'll give them a star using my ManyCam, and there's a dancing star in there, and the younger students really like that. So I will use those with my students that maybe cannot do the reward I have planned. Now, on the second day, I may have a student. I have one student I have 5 days a week. So I know with her, I'm going to have to come up with something different. I try to do something that's a variation of what my first reward is. Most rewards, you can tie it to a lesson some way. You may have them repeat a vocabulary word or a sentence to get that reward. But there's a way to identify or to tie it to this particular lesson. Now, you see behind me the beach scene. I only wish I was at the beach, but what I'm going to use this coming week is a beach scene, and my rewards revolve around seashells. And so I have 2 or 3, actually 5 different rewards that I can use with the students dealing with seashells. So if they come another day, then I'll use another variation of that. So this is what I'm using now, and this is all my planning. It takes me, once I set up my Google Slides planner, I'm done. I write that down, write down the numbers, and that's it. So 15 minutes and I'm done. Now, I do have to go back through and look at the feedback that's in my planner because I haven't taught every lesson at level 4. And like I said, I just certified for lesson 5, and I haven't taught any of those lessons. So I have to go back and make sure that there is some feedback there. Because I do my feedback, I pull up that template, and I'll do a video on how I do that. I pull up that template, and then I personalize it in that 5-minute between class. So that's pretty much how I do my planning now and how I did my planning in the past. Maybe that's something you want to consider. If you have any questions about it, be sure and reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you any way I can. Now, while I'm thinking about it, be sure that you go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And if you click on that bell when it comes up, YouTube will more than likely notify you when I post a new video. If not, I usually do a reminder or a notification in several of the Facebook groups. So that's pretty much it, guys, and I would appreciate a thumbs up if you would give me that. Also, in the comment section, be sure to leave me a comment, positive or negative. You know, we all can learn and we all can get better. But if there's a particular topic that you're struggling with or you think that I may know about, if you've gone back and watched my original or my very first video, I talk about my background. My background, I spent 34 years in special education. So I know quite a bit in that area, and that definitely carries over into the area of or with our students, working with the students that we work with in China. I have quite a bit of information and experience in the area of behavior. I was a principal, an assistant principal. I also was a special education director for our school district. So I have some experience in the behavior area also. So leave me a comment if there's something you need help with, if there's something you would like me to cover in another video, be sure and let me know that. And guys, thank you so much for watching.